Hi guys, today we're going to be doing a Q&A. We put up a story earlier today on our Instagram and asked people to ask them some questions, and we've got a fair few. So today we're going to be answering anything to do with music marketing, the music industry. So let's jump right in. The first question is, do you need to be in a big city to do well in music?
Absolutely not.
No, you covered this actually in
Yeah,
an
I
Instagram
cover this
video.
so often. I think so many musicians now are just moving to big cities like London, LA, New York,
Yeah.
Berlin, which have just such impressive music scenes. And with the technology and the internet, you really don't need to be in a big city to be able to put your music out there. Spotify is global, Apple Music is global, YouTube is global. And if you wanted to vibe with like-minded musicians, you can do it over the internet, you can do it over Instagram. So my answer for that is no, you don't.
Yeah, I always think as well, those areas that are more successful for music, so major cities, are so expensive to live in. And as a musician, you're probably wanting to pump as much money into the music as possible. So the idea of kind of living somewhere really expensive, but then not having the money to invest in the music is sort of taking a step backwards rather than going forward. So I think we'd suggest just kind of staying where you are and working on the music, working on your fan base before kind of making any major decisions and moving anywhere.
And as long as you're in commuting distance.
Yeah.
So if you want to do gigs and shows in those areas, as
Yeah.
long as you're in commuting distance, then I don't think it's going to be a problem.
The next question is, how do I work with you to promote my music?
Just go to work with us on the website. If you go to the homepage, go to top right, click work with us, and you can fill in the form and we'll just get back to you if it's something that we think we can work with and take your career to the next level.
If I hate making content, can I just run ads on my songs? Are there negatives to this?
I would say...
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, it's going to
No.
cost you a lot of money
Yeah.
if you do that. Because if you imagine that you've never heard of an artist and you just keep scrolling past their ad and it's just the same thing over and over again, you're probably not going to click it. And your track would have to be truly amazing for someone to be hooked in the first 3 seconds.
I also think that a lot of artists say they don't like making content, and to be honest, that's most probably a lie, because you might hate making certain content. So if we were told we had to make guitar tutorials, I would hate making content because I don't know how to play guitar. You've got to find content that you enjoy making that's adding value to your audience. And I think just running ads repeatedly, your aim is to get sales, your aim is to get streams, and that shouldn't really be the aim of your socials. Your aim of your socials should be to get engagement. It should be to kind of get people interested in you as an artist, and then the sales will come, then the streams will come. And kind of running ads repeatedly will just mean that you're basically going to annoy any audience you do have because you're trying to get a sale out of them. What are your opinions on talent competitions in the music industry?
I personally wouldn't go for them. I mean, how many X Factor winners have really had a outstanding blow-up career? There's One Direction.
Little Mix.
Did Little Mix win?
Yeah, they didn't even win.
Yeah.
But I feel like you're stuck with the label for life. You obviously do get successes from a lot of these talent competitions. But I don't actually know any artist that's come from The Voice.
Yeah, no. And you can't be you as an artist. Even if it's a smaller talent competition, then you just can't be yourself. You have no creative control, and you spend your entire career trying to please a mass audience because that's what the talent competition wanted you to do, and that's why you won. So I wouldn't say so. And it's just completely based on how you do a cover song or how you do your own song and entertain people in 30 seconds. So I would say talent competitions, they're a waste of time, and if you do win, you'll be a one-hit wonder maximum.
Yeah. I do think the only ones that are good are the ones that are kind of owned by major music companies, like Fender do songwriter competitions and stuff. And sometimes things like that can do you good because you've got that name under your name. So when you're approaching like blogs and radio and playlists and things, you say that you've won a Fender competition or you've been endorsed by them. I think that's an amazing thing to have. And also you'll meet some really kind of strong industry people by doing those sort of competitions. But at the end of the day, I don't think they're necessary. I don't think
Yeah.
they're going to make you kind of get a shortcut to
It's
succeeding.
not a fast track way to success.
No.
If you think about it, they want to promote their own competition, and if you've got nothing going on your social media, you've got no followers, they're not going to choose you anyway to even be in the competition, because they're looking for people who are able to promote the competition by being in it.
Yeah. I'm not really a social media person, so what would be a good way for me to engage? I don't know. Again, like we said with the content one, I think saying I'm not really a social media person probably means you haven't put the time and effort in, because you're not born a social media person. You have to learn. You have to. You be using it every day. And in the music industry, it actually is a necessity now.
Yeah.
I'd say that you probably can't succeed if you're not on social media. The only artists that right now have kind of blowing up but aren't on social media are people like Ed Sheeran and Adele.
Yeah.
But they did all of their hard work for years and years and years and built their way up. So now they're kind of not at a point where they need to be on socials. But for emerging artists, for artists that haven't got their name out there yet, you can't kind of use the excuse of, I don't understand social media, because there's so much educational material out there.
Yeah, artists seem to have this idea in their head that social media content equals vlogging. It's like walking around town with the camera and then talking to the camera. It's not that at all. You can create so much different kinds of content. You can create written content. You can create just short stories. You can do tutorials. You can do all sorts of just different things and make it your way. If you don't even want to put yourself out there, you can start editing different kinds of videos and put your own music over the top of it. As long as you get permission to be able to use someone else's content and mix your own music into it, then you still are a content creator. You still are using social media. So even if you don't use social media, there are ways you can get into it and just create your own content.
Also, there's a production duo we work with called Honey, and their content is them making music. And you're a musician, surely you love making music. Film it, take pictures of it.
Yeah.
That's content in itself. That's social
It is,
media.
yeah.
And you love doing that if you're a musician. These girls, that they have a combined following of like 300,000. And what they do is amazing. They do kind of looping videos. They do sort of tutorials of them using Ableton, different software. And that, for any artist, is sort of their dream, because you get to do what you love every day and you've got an engaged audience. Like, that's the best kind of thing. And also, if you're not like a social media fan, there's other sort of content platforms you can go down. You can create a podcast. You can start writing blogs. You don't have to be this kind of vlogger, as you said. There are so many different avenues now, and I think that a lot of artists get stuck in this, I need to be kind of in front of the camera, I need to be sort of like a YouTuber.
Yeah.
And there are artists that are smashing it at the moment, and they're not doing the kind of stereotypes of successful content.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
How do I find the right people to work with me?
We did like a full podcast on that one. The answer is go onto various platforms and find people who are doing what you're doing. So depending on whether you want collaborations, just search Instagram to find musicians that you like and feel like you can vibe with. Go on Spotify, and if you listen to a track that you feel like you'd like to collaborate with them, just go to their Instagram and see if you can reach out to them. From what I remember, the big kind of warning was to look at people's content and see what they're actually doing, and are they in it for the right reasons, and are they someone who's kind of going to work as hard as you, and they're not just doing it kind of for the image. And that especially applies to managers and
100%.
labels and kind of smaller people in the industry who aren't the musicians.
Yeah, I think if this question was more about kind of like the industry professionals to get involved with you, that's 100% the case.
Yeah.
Look at their socials, look what they're doing, because we've seen a lot of people in this industry that are purely in it to say that they're working in the music industry, which is quite sad. But
just for the bio.
It's kind of life. It's like people love saying they're entrepreneurs now. A lot of people say they love saying they're in the music industry. And I think you need to find someone that you vibe really well with. And the best way to do that is kind of meeting them at networking events, meeting them at gigs, being introduced to them kind of one-on-one through other people. But I wouldn't go out and actively search for someone like a booking agent or a manager or a label. I think all those things happen in time, and they usually happen quite naturally if you're creating good content and putting out good music. What's the very first step for your very first release?
Get it out there and have no expectations, and just get it out there and put the next one out.
Yeah.
Be focusing on the next one. No one really blows up from like their first release.
Yeah.
You have to be very lucky.
One-hit wonders do.
One. And how many... Like they're called one-hit wonders for a reason, because they decline after the first one. So I recommend concentrating on the next release and just building and building and building. And that's essentially what it is. Don't expect fireworks, and just work as hard as you possibly can to just get a few streams, to get your first 1,000 streams, and make sure you do everything organically and don't try and cut any corners.
Yeah, I think the first few releases are really important just to get out there, because how many times do you find an artist you love, you go onto their profile, they've got only one other track, and then you might forget about them. It's so good to just have like that handful of releases, a load of social media content, so by the time you have that absolute banger that you want to smash out and get like crazy promotion around, you can literally upload it full well knowing that all these people are just going to fall into all the other releases and all the other content as well. So I think, as you said, that first release, don't get your hopes up too much, because it probably isn't going to be one that's going to blow up, but it's just so important to just get them out there.
And distributors, we know, are struggling with the Spotify for Artists on first releases as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're listening to this in like 6 months time to a year, they've probably fixed this issue, but they can't get you on Spotify for Artists to submit to the editors on your first ever release. So just get your first track out there, and then 4 weeks before you release, then you can submit to the Spotify editors.
How do I make money from my music? I've done a full video, and we've done quite a few videos on this on our YouTube channel, and there are plenty of methods. I think a lot of people in kind of the past few years since digital streaming's come in have started playing the blame game a little bit, where they think that there's no money in music and the only money that is in music is in the major labels, and we couldn't disagree more, really. There's so much money for grabs for emerging artists because there's just so many different platforms. So you have got digital streaming. Yes, it may not be as much as selling a CD, but the streams are so much easier to get because of the algorithm, because people are constantly just streaming music now rather than buying physical CDs. So you've got that, you get 1 million streams, you've got £4,000 immediately. You've got ticket sales, you've got merchandise, you can even have a Patreon page where people are only paying like a couple of dollars, a couple of pounds a month, and you can be making like a decent salary from that. There's just so many ways to connect with people across the world that there's kind of money there to be able to take from all of your different fans so they can show you support from anywhere in the world. And I think it's just easier than ever.
But what we always say is just focus on the long game. Don't focus on money short term. If you focus on short term money, then you won't grow. So any money you do get, you're going to be reinvesting it anyway. That's what you should be doing. So kind of just forget about the money and just be reassured that the money is there at the top end. The biggest artists are paying $500,000 or being paid $500,000 for live shows and live appearances. So the money is there, the brand sponsorship money is there, the streaming money is there. So don't worry about money in the music industry. It's still there, it's just at the top end.
And honestly, the amount of people that ask this question and then we look at their Instagram or we look at their Spotify and they've only released a handful of songs. And it's like, you wouldn't expect a company that's just started within 6 months to be making millions. It doesn't work like that. You need the patience, and I think the long-term strategy is the best way to go, because although you may not be making much in the early days, and if you are, you should be pumping it straight back in, it means that in the long term you're going to be making money so easily, because if you're taking all that money and just spending it on stupid stuff, you're not going to progress anymore. Whereas if you're pumping it back in, you're giving yourself the chance to kind of spend on promotion, spend on the quality of the music. There's just so much that you can spend on, which will mean in the long term you're kind of getting a lot more money. But I think, as you said, if you cash in too early, you probably will end up regretting it, because it means that your career either ends up being shorter. 100%. So I think making money, there's definitely a lot of avenues, but in those early stages, just focus on the music, focus on your fans. What sort of content turns followers into fans? I think personal content, because there's a real difference between posting on Instagram your latest release or your music video and creating personalized content. Like, personal content for your audience should be something that you know is adding value. So you could be you might be a really funny person and you're kind of vlogging your life and you're really entertaining your audience. You know full well that they're a fan of you rather than just clicking follow and kind of showing support for the music. You do want them to support the music, but you want them to be a fan. You want them to be so engaged that when you do have merch, when you do have tickets, they're going to buy it. And the best way to do that is having content that's adding value to the consumer and is something that you know they're going to actually take in and kind of relate to or be able to stop scrolling for, basically.
And a little tip I got from a marketing podcast was, when you are on social media, people tend to talk in a context of talking to a big audience. Talk to one person. If you're doing written content, then say words like you rather than you guys, because you are addressing one person. If someone's watching your story as one single person, and make them feel like that you're engaging with them, and that's how they will become a fan, because they feel like they know you, they feel like that you speak to them every single day. So whatever kind of content you are creating, the language you should be using and the way you communicate is to one single person.
Yeah, and I think that's why you should avoid those kind of screenshots of your Spotify and things, because it's trying to, it makes you appear as if you're kind of a little bit superior. And you don't want that. You want the relationship with you and your fan to be so level that they can DM you, and that's the most important thing. You want engagement, and I think kind of personal content that they can relate to is the best way to do that.
Absolutely agree, yeah.
Is it enough if my music is only on Instagram? I think this depends on what your aim is. I think every kind of answer we give, it depends completely on what your goal is. If your goal is to increase your Instagram followers and that's all you want, then great. Keep posting your music on Instagram. But if you kind of want to be like an established artist that's selling out arenas, then your music needs to be everywhere. You need to have it on every single platform, because the worst thing ever is if we find an artist we love on YouTube and you go over to Spotify to stream it or save it or add it to a playlist and they're not there. You want to be on every single platform, to be discovered on every single platform. And the only reason I would say just post on Instagram is if you're doing kind of cover songs. I think that's your best bet. But
I think a really hard-hitting thing would be someone 15 years ago would have said, should my music just be on MySpace? And now it's gone. So I think you need to make sure that you are leveraging and kind of just spreading your risk, because you never know when Facebook will take it too far with Instagram, because they own Instagram, and start monetizing too much. Everyone gets bored and they move on to something else, and you're left with a Instagram audience. So make sure that you are leveraged and you're able to carry your audience to a new platform immediately or already be there. So always be changing and always have your content in lots of different places. If the answer is about if the question is about social media, I would say that you need to get your music on Spotify and places like that. You can't just have your music on Instagram, as you say, unless you're a cover artist.
And the same with content. Because Instagram is the hype right now, everyone's on it. I think everyone's kind of put all their eggs in one basket. And to be honest, we originally did the same. We we were thriving on Instagram, and our followers grow a lot quicker on Instagram than they do on YouTube and with the podcast and with our blog. But at the end of the day, if all your audience go from Instagram, how many of them are going to move over to another platform and follow you? Probably a very small percentage. So I think it's key that you are still posting on all other socials, even Twitter, even Facebook. Even though they don't kind of have the same organic reach, as much engagement, it's definitely worth having them there. And even new platforms like TikTok, kind of jumping onto them before everyone else is and making sure that you're creating content for it. What's the right way to approach a manager? Would you approach a manager?
If I was in the right place and I did need a manager and I was just completely swamped with work and I needed someone out there and I couldn't afford to pay someone, I need someone to come in and help me with something, whether it's admin side of things or whether you just don't have the resources and the network to open up the industry for you. Yeah, I would. But
to give a bit of context, this came through a DM, and she said to us that she was releasing one of her early material, like one of the first songs, and she was looking for a manager. That's where I think maybe it's not the best move.
Yeah. No.
I don't think, like you said, you need a manager when everything's too much.
Yeah.
When you need kind of someone to help with emails, when you need someone to help with the money side of things, when you need someone to open doors.
Yeah.
But finding them is like networking events, gigs, through friends, kind of through industry people you know.
Yeah, and being a manager there's a lot of them out there, but to be honest, most of them are just kind of regular people who don't have a network. Unfortunately, I'm sorry to say it, but that's the way it is, because
it's so easy. You can just say, I'm a music manager. You literally put it in your Instagram bio and you're suddenly a music manager.
And now you're sending emails on behalf of an artist and that's it, you're a manager. And if you really wanted to make money and you had that competencies in the industry, you would be a publisher or a label and set you up as that. A manager is someone who wants to be in the music industry and just doesn't have that network and wants to be a manager. Now, there are exceptions. There are some amazing management companies out there who are adding value to the artist, and the biggest artists who just have so much going on that they need a management company and need someone to help them with just various aspects. But be warned, there's a lot of managers out there that will not be able to add any more value to your career than you.
I've actually found the best managers that we've worked with are people that it isn't their full-time position, and they actually work outside of music. So often they'll maybe work in finance, they might work kind of they might own a business, something where they have that business mindset so that when they put it into the music industry, it still works. I think that's a really good method to go down. You might know someone that is really business, and if you could say to them, I know you don't know much about the music industry, but if you could help me out with this, this and this, you probably actually might have a better chance of having someone like look after you in that aspect.
Agree.
But finding them, I think it completely ranges as to kind of what you're looking for, when you're looking for from them. But best thing to do is just look at their socials, look what they're doing, look who they're working with. If they're going out networking constantly looking to find artists, they're probably not the best one.
Unsigned guide is a good one if you're in the UK as well. You have to pay for that, but it will open up all the contact details for all the management companies in the UK.
How do you stand out to industry professionals?
Okay, yeah. So,
social media.
Yeah, it is. You need to be the complete package and an attractive package for whoever that professional is to take you to the next level and be able to say, I can apply my resources to that and then just make them take off.
What's so interesting is even if you look at kind of artists that broke out 10, 15 years ago, they even came from social media. So you had Ed Sheeran busking, someone recorded it. You had Justin Bieber kind of singing it on YouTube. You've had artists that were discovered on MySpace. Like there were so many different social media platforms then, and now it's the exact same, but with kind of YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. And I'm not saying that you need to be a viral sensation, but kind of having that personality shining through your socials is going to do you justice, because there is so much music out there that if you just create music, you're not going to stand out to anyone, even kind of potential fans. You need to have so much more to you than just the music. And a lot of people don't like that because they think it's unfair. They just want to create music. But it is the music industry now. And I think the best way to do that is through social media content. And then because you've got such an engaged audience, you're going to have labels, you're going to have booking agents, you're going to have everyone kind of looking at you thinking, this person is going to blow up, this person's going to make good money. Best way to do it, I'd say. How many finished songs would you need to have before your first release?
One, surely.
I think a lot of people believe that you should sort of spend months and months and months on a release, and then they're really scared to drop it because what if it does so well that you have nothing else left? I think you should literally release a song, work on your next one for a month, release another song, work on another one for a month.
Yeah, and I understand it. Some people have writer's block and they can't find a song that they like for 6 months. But this is the way the industry now, this is the way the algorithm works. So you kind of have to go that route. Yeah,
I think release as often as you can. Obviously, not everyone can write a song every week, but every other month is probably your best bet. So as soon as you've got your release out, be working on another one. We know a lot of artists that kind of do like songwriting camps, or they'll just literally take a weekend or a week away from work and they'll just like go hard at writing. And you might find that in that time that you write 5, 10, 20 tracks, and then you're good for the year. You can just kind of keep releasing them. I think that's quite a good method to go down.
You get early feedback on your music as well. So if you go and write, say, 7 tracks, and people come and say, I don't really like it, I don't like any of the tracks, I don't like the genre you've gone for, and you've wasted all that time and money on your music. So always be testing, always just find out what people think of that first track or the first couple of tracks, and then you'll find your direction, you'll find what works and what your audience likes. So if you put out, say, 2 tracks and one flies on Spotify and one doesn't, you figure out why it worked, and then you invest more on that style of music and that genre.
Yeah, and there's also no point waiting.
If
If you're kind of just sitting back thinking like, oh, I've got this one released but I haven't written anything else, when are you ever going to release? You have to sort of start taking action in this industry just because there's so much competition. You need to be releasing, you need to be creating content, you need to sort of be pushing it out, playing live. And yes, it's so much to do, especially if you've got a full-time job. But if you want it enough, you'll do it.
Yeah.
What's the best way to keep a release relevant a month after it's out?
I think it's always relevant to an emerging artist because it's all they've got, essentially. So I'd say keep kind of keep your socials active, and if you're gaining new followers and they haven't heard your track before, then it still technically is relevant. And did they give a timeline, or just a month after it's out, did they say?
Yeah, they said, how do you keep it relevant, basically?
Okay, yeah. I mean, the Spotify algorithm takes like 8 weeks to kick in anyway, so it's going to be relevant for a long time. We've got artists who released literally 2 years ago, and their tracks are still getting picked up by the algorithm. So anything that you kind of define as relevant and being successful, then it's still going to happen for you after like months after the release.
Yeah, what's very important though is to kind of not hang on to a release too much. And I know a lot of you write a song, you're really proud of it, you want to get it out there. But it is very important that once you've released it, you don't bombard your fans with it. Because if your content is just, I've released this song, listen to it, I've released this music video, watch it, they're not going to engage. You sort of need to have this kind of happy medium between creating content which adds value and them kind of supporting your music. So what a great thing to do is kind of, you have someone follows you, you engage with them in a conversation, then you can send them your latest release, because they're a new follower, they may not have heard it. But as you said, there's just kind of so much going on in the industry that your release will kind of constantly be there. It will constantly hopefully be on Discover Weekly playlist, which means you can be getting streams for God knows how long on that one track. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I'd start kind of do 1 month prior to release, pushing it out. 1 month after release, you're still kind of pushing it out a bit, but then just jump straight into the next track. How do I get my music on TV shows?
Through reaching out to all the creative directors, all the music supervisors. There is, have you used Syncer?
Yeah, we used Syncer when it first came out. I think they're really lovely people. They worked really hard for that platform. And what that basically is you pay monthly, and they have kind of, there's loads of different things on it. They have blogs, they have labels, they have TV and basically sync opportunities, and you can submit for that. So they might have an opportunity for you to be played on kind of a national TV show or a Netflix series, and you can submit your track. And I think that one's really good. We've had a few people that have done well from that platform. I personally don't know any artists that have kind of that we've worked with that have used it, but I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, you're looking basically for the music supervisors of all those TV shows, all of those movies. Go on LinkedIn and just find the music supervisors of each upcoming movie.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I've met a lot of them, and they all say that they just get their music from the major labels. It's what the major labels do. They own publishing houses, they own backlog of music. So they just already just go to Universal and say, give us some music for this, and they will pay for it. They do say that when a movie or a TV show is being created, the budget is always cut for the music. The budget comes last. So if they have £100,000 budget for the music at the start of the show, the chances are by the time it goes to post-production, there's a £10,000 budget. So it is difficult, but there is an opportunity there to possibly cut your royalties. But the best thing to do is really try to get signed by a publisher or a sync company.
How we've been having success with emerging artists, though, is being very, very niche. So listen to your track and see if there's sort of certain lines in it that could be relatable to a TV show. So if you have a breakup song, you could go to a dating show there, and then you basically find that person on LinkedIn. So if you were looking at, I don't know, first dates that's shown in the UK, you'd type in first dates music supervisor. You'll often find them within your first search, but if not, check social media as well. And then you find their email, you email them, and within that email you state, if you skip to this time, we talk about this, we think I'll be really fitting for this. And if you make it really, really personal, they're going to appreciate that so much, because that's what they're looking for. They have to spend so much time sieving through kind of so much music, that if you can provide something that's perfect for their scene, perfect for that TV show, then that's probably your best bet, I'd say. They do often ask for, in the main email, the PRS tune code, kind of all of that stuff that they would need if they did use the track. And it's really good if you can put that in the first email, because otherwise you're going to be going back and forth quite a bit. How many followers/plays do you think an emerging artist needs to have a reasonable fan base? I don't think there's a number. on these sort of things. And I think a lot of artists need to stop focusing on the numbers, because followers and streams at the end of the day don't mean anything if you can't sell tickets, you can't sell merch, no one's engaging with you. They're just numbers. And there are tons of artists in this industry that are just buying them anyway. So I think focus more on how many people are engaging with you. If you release a track and you're getting DMs from people, then you're doing great. There are so many artists that are releasing songs and nothing's happening. So if you're getting DMs, you're getting comments from things, you're having people come into your shows, that's the real success, because that's the real people. Numbers, just followers and streams, at the end of the day, they're just numbers. They're not the real people.
I couldn't have put it better myself. I mean, the fact that you could have 1,000 people stream your track, and all of those people love you so much because they've just been engrossed in you and just constantly on your social media and engaging with you, and they show up to your gig and you sell it out, compared to someone with 1 million streams and nobody turns up. There is no numbers in this game. It's all just what assets you've got as an artist.
It's also like, would you prefer to have 1 million streams and 100,000 followers on Instagram, but you can't sell out a gig and no one comments on your post? Or would you rather only have 1,000 streams, 2,000 followers on Instagram, but everything you post, you're getting engagement, you're getting people turning up to your shows? I think I know which one I would rather have. How do you use ads on Instagram?
I would start with the little promote button at the bottom of each post. Hit the promote button. A lot of people will just promote every single post that goes out. They say, the algorithm's not going to give this any reach, I have to pay again. Why does Instagram not give my posts any reach? So I'm just going to have to boost it, they want my money. That's not how ads work. You need to pick that one piece of content which is going to fly. You can see from the stats that it is converting to new fans, and you could promote that same piece of content for a year, and that would just constantly get your fan base.
There's been videos that we've done that get such good engagement that we have promoted them for a year, and then maybe even a year later we go back to it and promote it again, because you can see how many people are sharing it to their friends, you can see how many people are saving it, and I think those stats are so important, because if your post is getting loads of likes, doesn't really matter compared to the engagement, because you might be getting those likes from some hashtags or something else. If it's getting really good engagement, shove it out to more and more people. I think that's great.
And use the the ad manager on Facebook, so it's like business.admanager.facebook.com or something like that, and that is where you get a lot more advanced targeting, you get a lot more advanced statistics, and it will allow you to retarget everyone. So running one ad campaign to a completely fresh audience once does nothing. You've just burnt all of your money, because people just see you, they scroll past, and they don't think about you again. If you are coming up on their feed again and again and again, that's when they get to know you, they get to know your brand and your look and feel and your music, and then that's when they start converting to fans. So you do need to watch some tutorials online on using the ad manager, because that is essentially how you're going to gain fans on Facebook, on Instagram, and use Instagram ads.
Alex has written this really good blog post just talking about in general how you can get your music out on social media, and part of that blog post is talking about this funnel method, and we'll make sure to link it below so you can read it, but it's basically talking about how you can't basically go straight away in with stream my track or watch my music video. You need to funnel that down. So it could be that your first piece of content is a really engaging piece of content, so it could be like a behind the scene kind of shoot, it could be a vlog style content, which they don't need to know your music to kind of watch, they just enjoy it. And then the next piece and the next piece and the next piece, it gets it down to a point where you have a core audience, and that's when you can push it out. And I think that's really important, because a lot of artists are wasting a lot of money on putting out something that is just trying to get a sale, and you can't listen to music very often through social media.
No.
People scroll through Instagram without their sound on, so trying to promote music that way, you're going to waste your money. So I definitely think check out that blog post, because I think it would help a lot of you. Could you please provide an email template for when emailing promotional pages? What we're going to do is we're going to leave a link below for you to sign up to our mailing list, and we're basically going to do this. We saw it in one of the questions and thought it was a really good idea. So if you sign up there, we'll be doing that, and within our mailing list as well, we also have our recent blog posts. We'll be making more templates, and if you have any suggestions on templates you want or things that you want to receive from us, let us know in the comments or DM us on Instagram, because we want to be doing a lot more of that. Final question. What would you focus more on for your first song? YouTube ads or Instagram ads?
Oh, good question. I would probably go for Instagram ads, and
Yeah, I agree.
that's to build a fan base that are just going to keep coming back release after release. YouTube ads are just one big hit. YouTube ads you can use to get the numbers up, and that's all you achieve if you're not careful. You need to be able to have a well-targeted ad campaign on YouTube. And on YouTube ads, all you're really hearing is 5 seconds of the video. And if you want pre-roll ads, you have to have the beginning of the song is the ad. You can't just put a piece of the song, you can't put the chorus in. It has to start at the start of the video. And if your song does not get into it straight away, you're going to burn all of your money.
I've seen a lot of artists do this actually, a lot of the larger artists. I don't know if the labels are doing this on purpose, but they're basically designing the video, so the first 5 seconds is something really interesting. So the one I watched, it basically within the first 5 seconds had the voice of a famous YouTuber. So I kept watching because I thought it was that YouTuber's ad. Turns out he was kind of helping direct that music video, and I think that was really, really clever. So if your main aim is to get a lot of kind of music video views or your YouTube subscriber base to grow, that could be a really good method. But I agree, I think Instagram ads are probably your best bet. But as we mentioned in the other questions, don't go straight in with Stream My Track. Try and use that funnel method because you're going to be wasting your money basically.
Thanks very much for watching or listening, if you're listening on our podcast. If you do want to hear more podcasts from us or watch on YouTube, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.